Chapter 71. Go little finger to give her your big finger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ben understood the pain that Thanos felt when he sacrificed Gamora. Sometimes you have to give up something you love for the greater good. For Thanos, it was bringing balance to the universe. For Benos, it was splooging on Leah's face and/or chest area. Whether Soul Stone or Whole Zone, Benos needed to attain it. His face almost turned purple in grief as he fought to hold back the tears. With great pain adding sympathetic depth to his previously unscrupulous character profile, Benos handed another cigarette to the heartless guardian, demanding the bloody toll. Benos' hazy eyes clouded his sight, making the DJ look like some sort of red-skulled demon. With clenched jaw, Benos wondered, why did he even make a cameo here? The DJ smelled the clove again, nodding with satisfaction. For Ben, the worst part of it all was that when he turned back to Leah, she was gone. She was talking to a girl on the other side of the smoking section, leaving him with this war criminal. That's when the DJ said, I saw that banana peel move. Ben put on his best poker face and remained silent. He was about to feign ignorance when the DJ followed up, I liked it, that was pretty slick. Ben blinked in succession. It can't be a kindred spirit. Yeah. I've seen that fat pig Carla around the nightlife scene. Always acting like a diva. You did nice there. Ben nodded as his muscles relaxed. His impression of the DJ improved. Noon had ever shown him appreciation for his philanthropy as an agent of karmic retribution. It was difficult to meet someone with a proper sense of justice in this crapsack world. Ben felt like he encountered a rare friend with similar tastes. He wanted to say, look buddy, I don't make fun of girls for being fat. Unless you do. Know what I mean. Instead, he took the safe route. Thanks. We're of the same mind. Yeah man. You've been doing good work out there, making it real easy for me to set the mood with my mixes. Ben took a second look at the DJ, finding him much more relatable now. I just met this guy, but he seems all right. Should I ask him to become sworn blood brothers? The name's Theodore. What a proper name, Ben thought. But people around here know me as DJ Spinballs. Ben gave him a side glance. Bruh, did you name yourself that just to set up this joke? Theodore held his hand out for a shake. I'm Ben, nice to meet you. He shook his hand. Detected hidden saint. Known mastery. DJing, trolling. Ben should have been excited about discovering something new, but he was instead disgusted not only by the guy's masteries but also something else. Releasing the handshake, Ben glanced at his palm. It was covered with what he hoped was chocolate. Theodore also glanced at his own palm. A moment later, he shrugged and raised his hands in a helpless pose. My bad. Snickers. Why wait right? Then, as the girl Leah was speaking with walked past them to go inside, Theo turned and walked in with her. He wiped his chocolate-covered palm on her back as he greeted, Hey Sarah. Long time. Ben watched all this with his mouth hanging open. A few seconds later, he realized something and gnashed his teeth. He didn't even smoke the lucky cloves. He just took them with him. Maybe that bastard doesn't even smoke. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. But buddies, rare. Befriend a hidden saint, distributing reward. PUA points plus 1000, Ben didn't care about the trolling title. Instead, he focused on the rank. I got a rare for that. Rare was the highest category of achievement he'd received and he only earned a couple of them for doing insane things. How rare are hidden saints? He also noticed something else, that was the first non-seduction-related achievement he earned. However, Ben didn't spend too much time meditating on it because there was a more important situation afoot. He was alone with Leah now. Besides for the two of them, the smoking section was empty. He glanced at Leah who seemed distracted, staring off into space with an annoyed expression. Ben strolled up to her. "Hey, you seem upset." She turned to him and responded with a slight slur. "Tch, that I had a fight with my boyfriend. That must be why she's drinking." Ben's eyes gleamed. "If I go little finger, I may be able to give her my big finger." He put on a sympathetic expression. "I heard about his accident." Her eyebrows rose in response. "How'd you know?" "That I was there when the truck hit him," he said. "Because I summoned it." Leah snorted. "So you must have seen him talking to other girls there." Despite it being his enemy, Ben didn't confirm nor deny on account of Article 37G of the Universal Bro Code. No snitching. Yet, Ben could see she was upset, so he tried to console her. "Don't let him control your emotions. You should move on. You know, the best revenge is revenge." She chuckled and bit her lip as she gazed at him. "And I don't mean revenge on the truck." She laughed even louder and slapped Ben's chest in a playful manner. "Shut up." Their heads weren't too distant now. She looked at Ben's lips. "That's the signal. Turbo time." No longer hesitating, Ben went in for the kiss. Chapter 72. Never give up your dream to deliver cream. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With a heavy feeling in his heartnuts, Ben watched Leah pull away. Even though she gave him the kissing signal, she was still playing coy. "I have a boyfriend." Despite saying that, she gave him a provocative smile. Ben's eyes thinned. *T test. In response to her, he shrugged. "I have a mug with a stegosaurus on it. His name is Steve. Since we're talking about things that don't matter." She giggled and slapped his chest again. Now that they were closer, he moved in to kiss her again. And she rejected him. Again. Leah shook her head with a naughty grin. "You're bad. But I can't." However, she continued, "I'm with my girlfriend Sarah here. She's my boyfriend's sister. She can see." Leah pointed through the glass wall to a sofa where a raven-haired girl sat and stared at them, very interested in their conversation. It looked like Sarah didn't notice Ben try to kiss Leah because the angle blocked Ben's body and a waitress was taking her order. Yet, Ben was aware that if he tried again now, she'd see for sure. How can I get her to ignore us? Ben's mind raced to come up with ideas. But he didn't find any good way. His face became tense. Am I going to lose this chance? All of a sudden, his ears perked up as a new song came on. Count on Me, by Bruno Mars. Ben peered at the DJ booth and observed Theodore walking over to Sarah, and saying something. Then, she took off her jacket. And screamed. She discovered the chocolate covering it. She rushed to wipe it off with napkins from the table. Theodore glanced in Ben's direction and gave him a quick two-handed point with his index fingers. Then he climbed back into the DJ booth like nothing happened. Ben's eyes threatened to tear up. Brostradamus. I'll never forget this. Despite the surge of emotion, Ben focused. No time to be sentimental. I can't let Theo's Snickers sacrifice be in vain. Ben took a breath and his eyes became sharp. He knew he didn't have long. He grabbed Leah's hand. She blinked in surprise, but didn't resist, having also noted Sarah not paying attention. What to do? Ben knew Sarah would soon look back over to them. The shot clock was counting down. 10, we can't leave the bar. Leah probably won't come and her friend will stop us regardless. 9, his eyes scanned the bar for ideas. 8, Eddie, there's the bathroom but there's a line now. If I try to bring Leah there, Sarah will discover us. 7, somewhere else in the bar. He continued searching. 6, upstairs. He glanced at the entrance. 5, still blocked. Sit down and play hide the pickle under the table. 4, no good. Her friend will interrupt us. Somewhere hidden. Behind a group or a chubster. 3. No. Sarah will text and Leah will respond. That'll kill it. 2. It was down to the last seconds. Ben's eyes sharpened. I'll find a way. In the crucial moment, he remembered his ancestral heritage. 1. As a true gamer, Ben scanned the environment for geo effects. His eyes focused on something. There. 0. Sarah frowned, staring at her Gucci jacket. Phew. I got it all off. Oh crap, I forgot to keep an eye on Leah. She gazed at the smoking section. And relaxed. In the corner, there was Leah's figure. Ben wiped the sweat off his forehead. He had pulled Leah to a shallow nook in the smoking section that could hide a bit more than one person. This way, her friend wouldn't freak out that Leah left and they'd have some privacy. To Sarah, it should appear Leah's leaning on a wall alone, but we don't have much time before her friend becomes suspicious. Time is pussy. There was also not much space. What can I do here? Ben's brain ran a slideshow of all the potential C.U.M.Fu moves. After a thorough analysis, he found the KO attack. I'll master Bruce Lee's 1-inch thrust. Ben spread a confident smirk at Leah. Looks like she can't see us now. Target's current attraction level. Attracted, +1, +2 drunk bonus. That's when Ben understood that bold maneuvers showcasing one's resourcefulness could also build attraction. Leah's red cheeks and unflinching stare betrayed her interest. Despite that, she was a troublemaker at heart. TCH.SO, before she could finish, Ben initiated Operation Counter C** block. And sealed her lips with a kiss. Her eyes broadened. Something slippery entered her mouth, exploring wherever it chose, and she surrendered. She closed her eyes and enjoyed the sensations. Ben pulled her in closer. He relished the pleasure of Leah's tight body pressed against his, but he never lost sight of the situation. He was here for a greater purpose, to achieve his dream to deliver cream. His hands twitched in anticipation. If I conquer this unknown terrain, I'll upgrade from a mere explorer to a real C.U. Conquistador. It was time to Pocahontas. Chapter 73. What It Takes to Be an MC, Point 18, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Ben's hands roamed Leah's lean body, crossing plains and approaching hills. For the two of them, the music in the background became distant, giving way to the touch, smell, and taste of the other's lips. Compared to her resistance before, Leah was more than willing now. With her friend not watching, it was on. This was a lesson for Ben, who now understood that sometimes the woman's issue was simple logistics. Despite his eagerness, he removed his tongue from her mouth and pulled away as he considered something. Am I doing the right thing? She has a boyfriend. According to Japanese novels, I should respect her boundaries, then pretend not to like her and share an ambiguous romance. Then he saw her sexy tongue waiting for him. F.U.C.K. that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. He dove back into the kiss. But kept one eye open to check her status. Target's current arousal level. Horny, +2 drunk status. Drunk status is like playing with cheat codes, perfect. Ben was playing with the dev console. He continued teasing her sensitive areas while exploring with his hands. Short of time, he decided to try a trick Beluga told him about. Ben brought his hand to the back of Leah's head. Then, with a handful of her hair, he gave it a light tug. Exposing her neck. With her head back, Leah M.O.A.Ned as she held her eyes closed. She liked it. Ben buried his face in her delicate neck. Licking up towards her sensitive ears. Target's current arousal level. L.U.S. Fool, +1, +2 drunk status. That was one of the quick moves Beluga said could raise arousal. It worked. Then, while Ben distracted her senses with his tongue, he slid one hand up. Putting it over and into her dress, and grabbing a bare breast. Leah opened her eyes for a moment, her face turning redder, but she didn't stop him. It all felt too damn good. Ben alternated squeezing her tits. While they weren't as big as Annabelle's, they had a great softness and elasticity to them. His hand couldn't get enough. Needing more, he pulled one brie.s.t out above her dress, then, he drew his mouth back from her neck and glanced at her exposed chest. When he saw the tasty hard end I.P.P.L.E, he swallowed and couldn't hold back. He brought his head down and started sucking. "Ah, fuck." Leah whispered. Ben licked it to his heart's content. While one hand helped occupy her tits, his other hand glided down her side until his fingers touched the silky skin of her lean thighs. He caressed her soft hairless legs, then, he grabbed a handful of her meaty ass. Leah enjoyed it as much as he did. As he squeezed her firm ass, Ben's C.O.C.K got harder. His body demanded more. He slid his hand from her butt, and along her soft cotton underwear until he reached the other side, where his fingertips touched an already moist area. Then, he rubbed her pussy. NNNNG. Leah tilted her head back, her breaths became ragged and her M.O.A.Ns increased. Despite the pleasure starting to take control of her, she remembered they were in a public place. Struggling through the ecstasy to release the words, she whispered, "But someone could walk in." Ben released her tit from his lips. He brought his head up and locked eyes with her, but kept rubbing her downstairs. Despite Leah saying that, her expression betrayed her pleasure and willingness to surrender. So Ben reassured her, "We're good, trust me." Then he shifted forward and locked her lips. As if releasing her inhibitions at last, she kissed him back with greater force now, creating even more friction on her P.U.S.S.Y downstairs. Oh, Ben's fingers were moist now. Her juices soaked her panties straight through. He shifted his hand up and brought it right under the panties. Soon reaching her most private area, now exposed to his direct touch. He rubbed even harder. "Hun," she broke the kiss and moved her head to the side for a moment, losing control from the pleasure. But Ben wouldn't let her gain back control. As he rubbed her supple wet P.U.S.S.Y, his middle finger slid inside. And she M.O.A. Ned louder. Feeling her slippery tight hole, his fingers got to work using his technique. NNNNGG. Leah's body became unstable. She moved in to hug Ben tighter, using him for balance as the powerful sensations from her lower region overwhelmed her. While fingering her, Ben's D.I.C.K reached full hardness. "This is so hot that I barely know this girl and now I'm fingering her in public. Anyone can walk in any moment." As Leah's M.O.A.Ns increased in frequency, her leg bumped against Ben's boner through his jeans, and her eyes glinted. She brought her hand down until she was rubbing Ben's C.O.C.K over his pants. "Feels big." Biting her lip to stay quiet, she unzipped Ben's jeans and reached inside. Her eyes went wide as she grabbed more than she expected. It's big, she smiled before losing herself to AM.O.N again. The ecstasy forced her to bury her head in Ben's chest once more. But that didn't stop her from using her hand to pull out his COCK. With her head against his chest, facing the ground, she watched Ben finger her P.U.S.S.Y and saw the juices dripping down. And it made her excited. Stroking Ben's D.I.C.K, she moved her tongue around her mouth for a second. Then, she aligned her head, and released spit from her mouth. Down to Ben's COCK. Got it, she thought as it landed, but she was soon forced back into MON. She lifted her gaze, meeting Ben's eyes as she jerked his C.O.C.K and he fingered her PUSSY. Ben felt good, but he wanted to FUCK. He pulled Leah forward towards him. But she resisted, shaking her head. He knew he didn't do enough comfort, and her resistance was the result. But he lacked time before. What to do? Try for a blowjob. He looked at the nook they were in and knew that if Leah got on her knees, her friend would run out to them in seconds. F.U.C.K. it. Get what I can get. The two continued stimulating each other hard and fast for a few minutes. Leah was the first who couldn't take any more. She buried her head into Ben's chest as her hand clawed into his back. F.U.C.K. Watching her about to squirt, Ben knew what he had to do. Any real MC had one thing in common. Hydro pump. They yelled their moves. Leah was so entranced in her orgasm that she couldn't hear anything. She started shaking as her underwear became soaked. Clear liquid dripped down, covering the concrete. While still quivering, she continued to jerk Ben off and went even harder. Her squirting and eagerness turned him on. He was close. F.U.C.K., he yelled. Leah was too lost in her orgasm to aim her ACOG .47. Leading to Ben spraying shots of C.U.M. all over her dripping underwear. Now covered in juices from the both of them. Leah leaned against Ben, gasping for breath, while his S.P.E.R.M. dripped down her P.U.S.S.Y and panties. It took a while until her legs became steady. When she looked down, her eyes popped out for a moment. That's a lot of cum. With a satisfied smile, she stared into Ben's eyes. Then, she reached her down to her drenched underwear and dipped a finger into it. Getting some of Ben's C.U.M. and bringing the finger into her mouth. Gazing into his eyes, she wore a naughty smile, sucking on her finger and enjoying the taste. Ben gulped. This was 2F.U.C.K.I.N.G hot. But before he could get another boner, he spotted Sarah in the corner of his eye. She was getting up from the sofa and walking over in their direction. Pulling his pants up in a hurry, Ben took his phone from the pocket and put it in Leah's palm. Put your number in. Leah giggled and did as ordered. Leah. Sarah was outside now with suspicion in her gaze. Turning and seeing her, Leah walked straight in her direction. Leah was lucky that her dark dress covered her dripping P.U.S.S.Y. Although a drop of juice still fell on the ground once in a while. Sorry. I was just smoking some cigarettes. Then, Leah hugged and kissed Sarah on the lips to ease her worries. Ben spread an evil smile. 2nd jizz. Soon, the two girls walked back inside. On the way, Leah looked back at Ben, winked, and blew him a kiss. Ben didn't have time for that shit. He stared at his phone, making sure it wasn't Domino's again. Only once certain he escaped a pizza pie to the face, Ben put the phone back in his pocket. As Sarah accompanied Leah inside, she glanced back in Ben's direction, traces of concern still on her face. Ben met her gaze, narrowing his eyes as he smirked. F.U.C.K. Sarah. Chapter 74. Karmic Splooge. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ben was proud of his no-hands no-scope C.U.M. shot. 1 shot, 1 kill. Not only did he hit the bullseye, but he conserved ammo. Rechargeable protein bullets. He believed they possessed magical properties, possibly used on JFK. Despite being on the leaderboards now, Ben believed it was more important to learn lessons from the experience so he could succeed again. Today, he learned something important. So it turns out going for a kiss once or twice isn't enough sometimes, you might even have to do it many times. Ben knew his persistence was a major factor in his hookup with Leah. He was glad he pushed through. Even though we didn't go all the way, I'm sure I got some nice achievements. Should I look at my alerts? Ben received many alerts when he was with Leah. No, I don't want to check them here. It's getting late. Might as well do it at home. As he prepared to go inside, a familiar face walked out to the smoking area. With a pack of cigarettes in his hand, Tyler stood in place for a moment as he gawked at Ben. Then he laughed. It's you. Forever alone, huh? Ben snorted. I haven't seen this guy since I embarrassed him at the gym some weeks ago. I guess it shouldn't surprise me this pool of jellos here. Since Domina's so close to the dorm. Several weeks ago, Tyler's provocation would have agitated Ben, but now he viewed Tyler as below him. It would be like getting mad at a small barking dog. That's why Ben only walked past him, not having the time or interest to argue with this random C** broker. As Ben left, he didn't notice that two seductive green eyes shimmering within a sea of red hair were watching him from an upstairs window. They gazed at Ben's back with intrigue as he disappeared inside the bar. Then, losing all interest in the scene, they faded back within the dark interior. Tyler gazed at Ben's back. Sneering, he walked over to the wall to get shelter from the wind so he could light a cigarette. When he arrived, he sniffed the air. Why does it smell like a swimming pool? He shook his head, taking out a cigarette and putting it in his mouth. Damn wind. Unable to light it due to a sudden strong gust, he moved closer to the wall. I'm surprised that dork was here. He's lucky I haven't looked for him, since I still owe him for that gym incident. I should think of a nice payback to make him my bitch. As Tyler contemplated the Tao of douche. His foot slipped out from under him, sending him crashing onto his back. Thud. F***ck. It hurt, but he was uninjured. As he posted his arms on the ground to get up, he touched something sticky. Scrunching his face, he brought his hand in front of him and observed it. Still unsure, he took a whiff. That's when his face turned pale. It's jizz. As it turned out, he did take damage. It was a morale attack. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. P.N.S. Fly trap, fine. Have a competing adventurer fall into your set physical trap, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500. When Ben wasn't far from the doorway, he received a sudden achievement alert. Surprised, he checked it. He squinted, contemplating for a while on why he received this. He wasn't aware that Tyler had gone out of the butt and into the F***ck, having fallen prey to an elaborate trap created using karmic jizz and troll physics. After a while of not being able to solve this riddle, Ben dismissed the screen and put it aside, continuing into the bar instead. When he reached the dance floor, a new track came on the speakers. S.E. Zool Eruption by Snoop Dogg. That's when Ben got another alert. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Customized Screams of Pain, uncommon. Have an identified dungeon character of at least mini-boss level change the dungeon's mood music for you, distributing reward. PUA points plus 200, a pleasant surprise. Ben peered at the DJ booth and saw the hero who put up the assist. Theodore was spinning behind the tables but gave Ben a gesture of greeting. Ben returned a wave. He looks busy, I won't bother him now. Ben also glimpsed Leah with Sarah sitting at their table, chatting amongst a group of people. Leah's mood was much improved. They locked glances for a moment and soon broke eye contact, not wanting to attract attention. Ben smiled, still thinking about his conquest. He was satisfied but also exhausted from all the opening and the final success. I shouldn't stay here anymore. The bar's going to close soon and it would be a loss if Leah noticed me talking to other girls. Even though Leah wasn't his girlfriend, and even was dating someone else, he thought it would be bad if she saw him hitting on other girls right after hooking up with her. Beluga had told him women could be hypocritical about things like that. Ben knew better than to doubt sage wisdom. He also lacked the energy to talk to girls outside. It's time to go home and sleep. Despite only having a few days left before his potential execution, Ben knew he would have sweet dreams tonight, dreams about a sexy girl with white hair, and her even Sierra sister, the goddess of PUA points. Chapter 75. High-level mystery box. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days to live. Well, the points start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the s.l.u.ts and I hit the ground. c.u.min, didn't make sense not to live for pum. Your d*ck gets jerked but your head gets numb. This was Ben's reimagining of All Star by Smash Mouth. It was his victory song he composed in his sleep, an ode to the joy of getting nuts off and collecting achievements. Ferrick wasn't home now, so Ben was alone in his room, sitting on his bed and going through yesterday's results. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Hide and skeet, uncommon. Use environmental cover to set up a seduction opportunity, distributing reward. PUA points plus 200, all those hours in x.com paid off. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Post-apocalyptic currency, repeatable, uncommon. Get a handjob from a new woman to completion, distributing reward. PUA points plus 200, it's better than eating each other. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Domestically challenged hobos.e.x.u.a.l, fine. Attain a repeatable achievement for a CX act in public, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500, home is where the C*ck is. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Exploring the grayed out whores, fine. Attain a repeatable achievement for a CX act outdoors, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500, technically, it was a mother-daughter handjob if you include Mother Nature. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Cuckmaster Chief of Nethori, repeatable, fine. Attain a repeatable achievement for a CX act with a new woman in an ongoing relationship, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500, it's nice to know that's repeatable. Reading it like this though, I do feel bad. The poor guy is in the hospital, after all. I'll send him a get well green hat, /s, congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Broke-ass Dungeon Slayer, repeatable, fine. Attain a repeatable achievement on a new dungeon character of at least mini.boss status, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500, what does my wealth matter? To become an adventurer, all you need is a plan in your brains and courage in your hearts. Ben already considered himself to have a secondary nervous system. His P.E.N.I.S, brain 2, and testicles, hearts 2 and 3. Even though the system didn't give him a dungeon event yesterday, it still classified Leah as a mini.boss because she was promoting there. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Free s.e.m.e.n samples, uncommon. Have a woman taste your s.p.e. or .m by choice, distributing reward. PUA points plus 200, bnov.com, free samples here. c.u.m. Get your free samples. Congratulations. You've unlocked the achievement. Bird, style Aberdeen Snowball, fine. Have a woman taste your free sem.e.n sample, then kiss an unknowing third party, distributing reward. PUA points plus 500, Ben shook his head. Women are savage. One day, some woman's going to suck off a bat and start a pandemic this way. Ben's imagination sometimes got the best of him. Besides for achievements, he even got a natural stat bump last night. Seduction skills. 4. If you could reincarnate to middle school, you might be able to keep your girlfriend Marie from cheating on you with Hector Lombardo. Marie did. That whore. Ben took a few seconds to digest this unexpected news. It felt like being punched through the fabric of spacetime. Then, he realized he was becoming upset from the infidelities of a 13-year-old. After slapping himself in the face several times, he moved on with his life. I'll show them both. He mostly moved on. There was another notification besides for the usual achievements and stat points. Challenge conditions met, challenge initiated, special challenge. Booty burglar. Steal a woman from another male, ending their relationship. Target. Leah, reward. Mid-level stat growth multiplier, consumable, rare, random, x1, punishment. None, so last night wasn't enough to steal her. Seems I'm left with no choice. Since the reward is too enticing. It's just business, not personal. Okay, it's personal. Booty burglar on it. Finished browsing the old system notifications, Ben looked at his total points in the system. Wow, that's a lot. 5,350 points. With all the achievements he earned last night, he was rich again. I wonder if the store has something new. It surprised him before when the store didn't add something new at 4,800 points. Now at the nice round number of 5,000, he hoped that would change. He opened the store to take a look. And received a pleasant surprise. There was a new item. High-level mystery box. 5,000 points. Contains a random item anywhere from uncommon to legendary grade, legendary. Ben shot up from his bed. He'd only seen one epic consumable so far, and that turned him from average schmo to Bendigo. What would a legendary item do? He couldn't imagine it. But he was certain it would make it much easier to clear his death mission in a few days. This high-level box looked so good. First, getting rid of the useless common items was a huge help. Uncommon was much better. Most of the uncommon items he'd received were useful in various ways, and that was only the worst level of loot. Second, Ben believed that an increase from 1,000 to 5,000 hinted how valuable a legendary item was. The system was cold-hearted and mean, but so far, it had been fair. He believed a 5x increase in points would mean a 5x increase in average quality. However, after his initial excitement, Ben calmed down. Now, instead of smiling, his face became stern, because he ran into a conflict. He had a very tough choice now. Choose one high-level box with a possible legendary item. Or 5 mid-level boxes. As for the low levels, they seemed to drop a lot of stat growth multipliers, which weren't useful in the short term, so they were out. If he chose the high, and received an uncommon or even a fine item, it would be a tremendous loss. If he chose the 5 mids, he'd likely get some crap and 2.3 useful items, like in his last draw. Even then, they might not be useful enough to help him close within 3 days. High level or mid level? Ben was tearing at his hair. He didn't know which to choose. Chapter 76. Living in a horror movie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright. I don't have all day to milk the dog here. The fact is, within 3 days, I'm going to need something big to make the coochie pop. Ben shook his head. I can't play it safe. As a true gamer, he would go for the jackpot. The high-level mystery box. He would bet on the higher chance of a legendary or epic drop. I just hope I won't regret this. Despite having decided, he needed a few minutes to gather the courage to follow through with it. He stared at the screen. If it fails, it fails. If I die, that I die. No matter what happens, I've done more living this past month than I have my entire 18 years. Taking a deep breath, Ben resigned himself to fate, but before he bought the item, there was something else to do. He stood up and went to his jacket hanging on his chair. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a Lucky Clove cigarette from its pack. Lucky Clove cigarettes, item, fine, X15. Temporarily increases the smoker's luck a little while smoking. Even though it was only a little luck, Ben hoped it would make a difference. He put the clove in his mouth and lit it. After taking a few puffs of the green smoke, his eyes became firm, and he made the purchase. A few seconds later, a new type of mystery box materialized in his hands. This one was a beautiful shining silver, branded with a matte black question mark. Only by appearance, the quality between this and the previous boxes was like the difference between night and day, heaven and earth, Hawaii and Hoboken. Ben's breath was heavy as he rubbed the sleek surface of it, as if he was appreciating a divine treasure. Only after a long time, he set the box down on the bed and backed away. He needed some distance so he wouldn't damage whatever came out, whether that happened by his Jersey Shore fist pump or Grandpa's fist shake of rage. Exhale F***ck it. Suicide Squad made $750 million at the box office. Death might be a blessing. He opened the box. When silver light emerged, Ben blocked his sight with his hand. He was too nervous to close his eyes. Yet, he soon wished he did. Because the box didn't emit a bright flash. On his last epic, the flash was much brighter. The implication was horrible. With red eyes, he screamed at the system, "I was kidding before. If I die, I don't die. Don't be cliché. That's a better plot twist L.RG." As the light receded, Ben clenched his teeth, dreading the result. Channeling a young Brad Pitt, he cried out, "What's in the box?" A few moments later, his fate was lying on his bed in front of him. A tiny brown book about 1 by 2 inches in size. Ben squinted hard, trying to understand what this thing was. He put out the cigarette, then picked up the book. He tried to open it, but the pages were so thin, even that was difficult. What is this? A book for ants. How can I be expected to read this if I can't even fit my fingers inside the pages? The book has to be at least 3 times bigger than this. After struggling for a while, Ben slid open the cover at last. The first page was almost blank, with only a tiny stick figure in the middle and he was N.A.K.E.D, with a massive erection the size of half his body. What the hell is this? Ben opened the next page. The stick figure was halfway through walking a step forward. Next page. The figure finished the step. Ben was losing patience. He started sliding the pages faster, and he soon realized what this was. This is one of those flipbooks that shows an animation if you flip it fast enough. Understanding how to read it, Ben held the edge of the book between his fingers and flipped through the pages at a decent speed. Right away, Ben's pupils dilated, focusing on this animated stick figure as he got off to a running start. In mere moments, with his massive erection swinging up and down, he became larger and larger. It was like he was planning to jump out of the page. That huge D**ck was flying at Ben. Ah! Ben was gasping for breath on the other side of the room. He had dropped the book, backing up in a hurry, not feeling safe until he was far away. What demonic cartoonist made this? His eyes became narrow. What is Seth MacFarlane again? A Million Ways to Die in the West wasn't enough. He needed to unleash this on the world. With worry, Ben sighed. Even though I'd like not to, I need to read the item's data. He tricked me into watching the Cleveland show spin-off. This couldn't be much worse than getting our asterisk ped by that devil's dick. Ben approached the bed and picked up the tiny book. Taking a few more seconds to examine the cover, he frowned. It was wrinkled with a texture like dry human skin, and Ben swore he could make out what looked like a human face on it. Remembering something, Ben gasped. Please tell me this isn't the Necronomicon.O.C.K. Although very uncomfortable, Ben put the dread aside, deciding to continue with the book. I now understand how all those characters in horror movies feel. When you see such an evil book, you can't help but read from it. Even if it's written in blood not to, and there's menacing music playing in the background. Noon wants to be the party. Pooper to end the plot there. The truth is anyone would prefer being hunted by a family of cannibals than a boring weekend in a cabin with one-dimensional friends. Ben set his resolve and looked at the book's system description. Whatever happens, I just need to become the final girl. Divine Line Generator, Skill Book, Cursed, Epic, X1, Epic is good, but what's with the cursed part? Cursed. There were some undesirable side effects, because it was self-published. May summon a very slow demon. That's from being self-published. Chapter 77. Epic Skill. Divine Line Generator. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ben decided right then and there that he'd stick with traditional publishing. Please God, if someone publishes my autobiography one day, don't let it be Amazon. Then, he turned pale. Or even worse, the Ninth Circle of Hell, a web publisher. Cursed or not, when Ben saw it was an epic item, his body relaxed. What's more is it was an epic skill book. Squirtle Hydro Pump was only fine quality, and with that alone, he's been threatening to dominate the entire Pokemon League. It seems the flash only happens when the highest possible quality comes out, legendary in this case. When the mystery box didn't flash before, Ben's heart stopped. His blood only kept pumping through the desperate struggle of his backup Testihearts. With his troll-level vitality, Ben's body could no longer be considered human. If an enemy wanted to kill him, they'd have to eliminate both brains or all three hearts. He believed that given enough time, he'd reach the stage where he could regenerate from one drop of blood, the stage of C*CK cell rebirth. Where each of his cells would be equivalent to a microscopic C*CK. Ben's survivability would skyrocket. Whether stuck floating in space or the cold vacuum of a NTR relationship, if an enemy wanted to kill him, they couldn't leave a single drop of blood. They'd have to commit C*slaughter. Ben stared at the book's description in consideration. A very slow demon. The curse didn't seem like a trifling matter, but whether the slow demon was a white demon class imp or Lucifer with a hangover, Ben knew he needed to risk it. From the name of the skill, he already guessed that it would be something of great help to him now. Divine Line Generator, Skill, Epic. Generates a divine pickup line once per day. It was as Ben expected. The divine pickup line was an item he received when he first obtained the system. This was the description of the original item. Divine pickup line, consumable, fine, X1. Use on any woman to quickly raise her attraction to you by a significant amount. This time, the system clarified a few more details for Ben since he'd unlocked the attraction favorability sub-system. The divine line the ability would generate wouldn't be the same as the one he used a month ago. Its effect would be more specific. The generated divine line would raise any woman's attraction level to curious. That might not seem like much since it was only one level above indifferent. Yet, Ben understood the key point, it applied to any woman. That meant he could approach someone with the worst attraction level of mortal enemy, and still raise it to curious. It meant he could approach any woman out of his league. It meant he could approach celebrities. Even if was limited to one use per day, Ben's eyes flared at the possibilities. He knew the hardest part of an approach was the opening line. Often, even if it went well, it didn't elevate attraction to curious right away, and only kept him in the conversation. With the guarantee of the divine line, everything would change. Curiosity was a girl's fatal weakness. You might even say, curiosity was the first step to love. However, as Ben threatened to become happy, the system piped his dreams with extra clauses. First, unlike the first time Ben used the line when it was like a spirit took over his body, Ben would have to deliver the line himself. There wouldn't be an auto** CK function. Why do I feel like a used Toyota? Second, when he used the ability, it would give Ben 3 options of lines. 1 divine and 2 trash. It would tell him which was best only after he delivered it. Ben shrugged. It shouldn't be that hard to tell the difference. Last but a beast, the biggest catch of all, if he learned the skill, it might summon the demon, but Ben was willing to accept the risk. Having made his decision, he picked up the tiny skill book. Would you like to learn Divine Line Generator, Skill Book, Cursed, Epic, Dot. Warning, choosing yes may attract a very slow demon. Ben's eyes became firm, and he clenched his asshole. Learn. As the book turned into a ball of energy light, Ben's hands covered his backside, making sure there was a general stationed at every gate. Soon, the ball circled around him a few times. A while later, as if disappointed, it floated a few seconds. Ben got the impression it was complaining about him, something along the lines of tease. Then, the ball shot into the middle of Ben's eyebrows, entering his consciousness. Instead of thinking about the skill, Ben worried about the demon. He braced himself as he scanned the room, but there was nothing unusual in sight. Well, it did say may summon. Yet, when he asked the system for confirmation of whether there was a demon or not, she didn't answer. Women are always playing games. Since he couldn't know for sure, he'd have to put it off and hope for the best. Instead, Ben focused on present matters. He closed his eyes to understand the new information in his mind, but there wasn't much. The only difference was he was now aware he possessed an active ability that was usable once a day with a mental command. It's like a hotkey. Ben's configs were all set up. And not that noob QWERTY bullsh *T. The new ability gave Ben a boost of confidence. He hoped it would be the difference between life or death within the next few days. I'll test this skill today. He'd have an excellent opportunity to do so because today he'd be meeting his old pals Antonio and Beluga. They'd go out to do day game. Chapter 78. Textual intercourse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ben was walking through the location where he would meet Beluga and Antonio. If nothing else, this is a good spot to ride out a zombie apocalypse. The surroundings bustled with the noises of passing people. As Ben walked past a food stand, the aroma of baked pretzels attracted him. He stopped for a moment. A guy behind him wasn't paying attention and bumped into Ben's leg with his shopping bag, but kept walking without apologizing. Ben only needed to view the store brand on the bag to solve the equation, Ed Hardy. It simplified to douche. He was in a shopping mall in Brooklyn, the same one where he first approached girls with Beluga and Antonio. Maybe not as good as a prison. But this place will work. The key is to remember that while surrounded by zombies in a place like this, it's never the horde that gets you, it's the coward that gets infected and doesn't tell anyone in case he gets better. Ben mused. However, the solution is simple. Hidden cameras in all the bathrooms. At random times, Ben's mind would burst into apocalyptic survival simulations. Why? Because he was a man. And a fan of zombie stories. That was the combination's natural outcome. Yo, Ben! Antonio shouted from the front of a cafe. Ben saw Antonio and Beluga waiting for him, so he walked over and greeted them. Beluga, since you chose this place again, I take it you like doing day game here. In his deep voice, Beluga replied, I would have preferred the library but it's closed now. Ben squinted. The library. But it's hard for the women to talk. Beluga smiled. Exactly. They can't scream. After taking half step back on instinct, Ben was about to ask why that would matter. Then he remembered some of his failed openers with women cursing at him. Yeah, those were as recent as yesterday. Beluga nodded. I can see you understand me. I wouldn't go as far as saying that. Ben gulped. Beluga looked into the distance. In that situation, you can get real creative with your openers. It's why I got a library card. Antonio added. Ben blinked. Is this why our country's students are doing so poorly in exams? The future of America was at risk. Soon, the three ordered some drinks and sat down to catch up. Ben tapped on the table. I really need to get laid in the next few days. Antonio and Beluga glanced at each other, sharing the same thought. He went Fukushima. Hit by a nuclear thirst bomb. At that moment, Ben received a text. It was from Katie, the cute pink-haired anime lover. He was trying to schedule a date with her the next day. As Ben typed a text, Antonio grabbed his hand. Whoa. What are you doing, cuz? You tryin' to self-circu.msice. What? I was going to reply. Ben didn't understand. Antonio sighed. Beluga shook his head. Benjamin, you don't want to become forlorn. What's the problem? Ben asked. Look cuz, it's like this. You remember I told you chicks always imagine a dude in the most pitiful state possible? Antonio asked. Ben nodded. He recalled Antonio mentioning it the last time he texted Katie with him. Well, what does a chick think when a guy replies right away? Antonio asked. Ben scratched his chin. He's responsible and would be a good father. Antonio double-faced palmed. Beluga threw his hands up in the air. After a while, Beluga explained. Benjamin, why do you think there are so many single mothers? Is it because they're attracted to men who would make good fathers? Ben scratched his head. Isn't it because of the system? Beluga stood up and walked in a circle. Antonio yelled. What system? Ben shrugged. The system. The man. I don't know. Antonio slapped the table. Look. He took a deep breath to calm down. The reality is women ain't attracted to responsible. They're attracted to high status, good looks, game, and a busy guy with lots of options. So how busy could you be if you're replying to a chick's randomly timed text right away? Beluga sat back down. When you do that, females imagine you sitting by the phone, waiting for their text like a sad puppy. Ben's eyes widened. He thought back to his text conversations over the past few weeks. He realized the dates that showed up were those he set up while doing something else. As a result, he didn't come off eager in his replies. They're right. Antonio held up 3 fingers. The 3-minute rule. What's that? Ben blinked. It's a rule I came up with on the best timing to reply to chicks in any textin' situation, Antonio answered. Beluga nodded. You should listen to Antonio on this. As much as I know, I've never seen someone more gifted at using text game. Antonio narrowed his eyes. Listen close cuz, I'm gonna tell you how to maximize your odds of setting dates over text. It's the only way to go. Follow this advice. Or you'll be another soul lost in textation. Ben's eyes flashed with dread as he imagined unclear conversations and motivations. Another Bill Murray. Then, he shook it off, and leaned in, his mind entering a state of rapt attention. He was ready. It was time to learn the ins and outs of textual intercourse. Chapter 79. 3-minute rule. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not wishing to be trapped in iMessage limbo, Ben clasped his hands together as he prepared to listen to Antonio. He looked like a naive youth first learning about the world. Sitting with his 2 buds, everything outside the conversation faded out. Ben ignored the voices of other people in the cafe, and even the smell of coffee saturating the space. Noting Ben's serious attitude, Antonio nodded in appreciation. The 3-minute rule works like this. He took a dramatic pause. Because he knocked over his tea, spilling it on his lap. After a minute of wiping down, the 3-minute rule works like this. When a chick texts you, delay at least 3 minutes to text her back. It's the same whether on a phone, Facebook, whatever. A lot of guys have a rule where they wait at least as long as the chick waited to text back, which can take hours or days. But I can tell you right now that they're wrong. Beluga nodded. That was his experience as well. Antonio continued. The reason they're wrong is cause when you're texting with a chick, you're stuck between 2 opposing forces. Good and evil. Ben asked. Antonio held his palm to his chest. Good and evil exist in the heart. Then he lowered his hand. And the balls. Okay. Ben shrugged. Antonio got back on track. What I'm talking about are the 2 opposing texting forces. Distraction. And simplification. Simplification. Ben visualized a lineup of nerds in Marine Corps uniforms, shouting in unison, "Simplify." Beluga waved his hand in front of Ben's face. Pay attention. You almost got lost in the sea of simp. Ben shook it off and returned to listening. Antonio spoke. Simpifaction is the process of chicks imagining you doing simp**t at all times. Staring at your phone and waiting for them to text you, looking at their photos, playing video games. Ben raised his eyebrows. These girls are pretty smart. Get new hobbies. Beluga yelled. Even if they're right, don't let them know it. Antonio agreed. Beluga nailed it. It's all about perception. That's where the 3-minute rule comes in. You wait 3 minutes, which is long enough for it to seem like you were doing something else and only then noticed her text. That'll break her simplification cause she won't imagine you staring 3 minutes at her text before responding. Most guys respond right away. On the other hand, you'd prefer not to wait too long either. That's cause the opposite force of distraction will come into play, which I'll explain now. Ben put his hand up. Let me stop you right there. You trying to info dump on me right now? Antonio replied, you trying to be av.i.r.g.i.n forever. Please continue. Ben sipped his coffee. Antonio snorted. The force of distraction. First, you've gotta understand something. Most attractive chicks are in contact with at least a dozen guys at any given time. With the growth of social media, that number's going up every day. And the hotter the chick, the bigger her network. So if you don't respond fast enough, she'll move on to someone else and you'll be a memory. That's the force of distraction in play. Of course, we're talking in terms of efficiency. You could wait a year to text back and it wouldn't be impossible to close, but your odds of setting up a date in the short term drop off big time as the minutes pass. As you already know, it's all about pushing for dates in the short term, cause number leads decay. While contemplating everything, Ben drank his coffee, enjoying the aroma of the light roast and the taste of caramel. I got it. 3 minutes, but not too long. Simple enough. Antonio said, yeah, one caveat though. Technically, you can delay your response 3 minutes or delay by at least the time it took for her to reply, that could be under 3 minutes or even immediate. For example, if the chick replied in 1 minute, you could text her back in 1 or 2 minutes instead of 3. The reason is that she showed eagerness herself by texting quickly, so as long as you don't seem more eager than her, there's no problem. That's also why you shouldn't delay more than 3 minutes, 3 is long enough that you won't seem eager any longer and she's influenced by distraction. Also, texting back faster is an effective way to reward chicks for good behavior such as replying quickly. Like a type of training. Beluga interrupted him with a serious expression, Benjamin's not ready for the Skinner C.U. conditioning program. Antonio held his hands up in apology. Ben didn't notice their last exchange because he was deep in thought about the rule and how he could apply it to improve his dating life. After a few seconds, he said, sounds good, I understood. Ben grasped how important texting was. It was the inevitable future of humanity. He knew that as technology advanced, it would bring many new challenges for society. How to use technology to have sex with women. How to have sex with robots. How to make robots have sex with women. Beluga said, take heed Benjamin. Not only will this knowledge keep you from becoming stool frustrated, it will also help you avoid being accused of stool harassment. Antonio sighed. Before I figured out this system, a girl accused me of tormexting her. She was wrong, of course. Beluga put his hand on Antonio's shoulder. I know you didn't mean to texturb her. Ben watched them with interest. They seemed to be getting into it. Antonio summarized, well cuz, that's all you're ready for at the moment. The advanced stuff will come later. Beluga added. Such as toilet texting. Antonio nodded. Becoming ambidextrous. Beluga became inspired. Staying textually active. Ben frowned. Are they composing a song? I have a very bad feeling about this. And like remaking a classic musical into a movie that no one wanted, they broke out into duet. Not getting textually overexcited. Avoiding premature textaculation. Not being a one-text stand. Common textostrophes. Not being texploited. Raising testosterone. Textramarital affairs. Giving a textgasm. Reaching textasy. Textual chemistry. Textual healing. Menage-text. Hexting. Antonio spread an impish smile on that last one. No. Beluga shot up from his chair. You've gone too far. You've gone too far, Antonio. Hexting is too much. I told you to stop. Ben's jaw dropped. That was too much. It was the shortest pun. Curious, he asked, what's pexting? It's his term for sending D*CK pics. Beluga replied. I'm coming up with a system for it. Antonio defended. You're coming up on Google. Beluga yelled. After a lengthy silence, Antonio contributed a final one, admitting when you're a textaholic. Antonio and Beluga exchanged serious glances for a moment. Before Beluga ended the conversation. It's under control. We can quit anytime. Chapter 80. Choosing the divine pickup line. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On that day, Ben learned that compared to only hearing a concept, watching it work as described created a much stronger impression. One could say showing was more powerful than telling. She's going to show me them tits. Ben declared to Beluga and Antonio. He was texting Katie as the three of them walked out of the cafe and into the mall corridor. As soon as Ben applied the 3-minute rule, he noticed her responses became more enthusiastic. Within a few more exchanges, they set a date for tomorrow. As for the tits. Ben's optimism was running wild. Stop texting her before you ruin it. After the date set, leave it at that until the next day. Remember that you want to seem busy, Antonio said. At those words, Ben became anxious. He almost knocked into passing shoppers as he sent Katie his last text, which he read out loud as he types. Gotta go, busy, dog in crumbling sky cr.a.p.er. Send. Antonio and Beluga stopped dead in their tracks at the last part. Did you send that? Beluga stared at Ben. Yeah, what? Wasn't that correct? Ben asked. Antonio replied, no. You gotta keep what you say within the realm of plausible possibility. No one knows a sky cr.a.p.er is crumbling before it happens. This ain't the Twin Towers. Ben's palms started to sweat. Did I ruin my date tomorrow by doing something ridiculous? I mean. Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Antonio waved it off. Nah, you're okay. It's lucky you added the dog. Saved by the rule of cute. Send her a puppy pic to stop the bleeding. Ben did as instructed. Before he clicked send, Antonio snatched his phone from him. Damn it, not Scrappy-Doo. After Antonio sent a photo of an actual dog, Ben put his cell away and the three continued marching through the crowded halls of loud shoppers. Ben looked at his two buds. Not long ago, he didn't know what friendship was. He was all alone in his room, living vicariously through video games and light novels. A life that he recently learned that wasn't a life at all. You know, I've really gotta thank you guys. If you didn't take me in, that I would have been hopeless. I would have never believed a nobody like me could change his life with some direction and motivation. Now that I'm dating beauties, not afraid to take what I want, and chasing my goals every day. Whatever happens, I just want you guys to know that I really appreciate you helping me. And being my friends. When the two of them looked at him, Ben blushed a little. It's that kind of talk that's gonna keep you av.i.r.g.i.n cuz. Antonio jested and put his arm around Ben's shoulders. Beluga also patted Ben's back with a reassuring smile. He's right. Never let a female catch you saying that. Wrapped up in the mood, Ben started another sentimental sentence before Beluga interrupted him by yelling towards a passing woman. "Hey baby. You ever been with a man with such a smooth-ass pimp walk?" He walked away, leaving Ben and Antonio looking at each other. The man's a real pro. Antonio rubbed his neck. "We should do some opening ourselves." Ben gazed around the mall. His eyes broadened when he spotted a black-haired professional beauty outside a luxury store's window display. With her pencil skirt highlighting her CXY long legs, she reviewed the display while making notes on a clipboard. Is she the manager? Looks intimidating. In the past, Ben found it difficult approaching professional women like her. The reason was simple. They felt he was too young. Ben wouldn't pass for much older than 21 and possessed the aura of a student, though it was developing into the aura of a dropout. And a pervert. It might have been difficult yesterday, but now I have a secret weapon. Ben smirked with confidence. He held the perfect skill for a woman like this. The divine line generator. Rather than using it at night, Ben preferred using it now for several reasons. First, opening in bars was much harder. Women expected men to approach them, so they kept their guards up. Second, Antonio and Beluga were busy tonight, so Ben would solo level again. At night, even if the divine line succeeded, he'd still have to deal with an obstacle after, so it wasn't worth it using it then. Ben understood by now that the best time to meet women was during the day, when they were often alone and might accept an approach with pleasant surprise. I'll use it now. He exhaled, visualizing his successful open. He glanced at Antonio. I'm going in. Ben walked over to the woman, passing through the noisy pedestrians. When he was a short distance from her, he activated the divine line generator with his mind. Divine line generator activated, uses remaining. 0, time till refresh. 23, 59, 57, divine pickup line generated, choose one of the following, A. Do you work here? This shop is great, B. Look at you, pathetic. Your father never believed in you. That's why you're here now, C. Point at her V.G.I.N.A. Hey, you going to eat that? Ben shook his head in disbelief. What degenerate writes these? Exhaling, he gazed at the options for a few seconds. At least the correct choice is obvious. He prepared his divine line, and stepped in. The professional beauty turned towards Ben with a cold expression. Ben defrosted her with the hot fire.